to not just kind of get through it, but I'll often say to Pete, like, when is a quieter time for you in the year?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
As a pastor, as someone who's got to read this as a trustee, like, when is that quiet? When does that slow down for you? Well, hello and welcome to the Church Office podcast. My name is Gavin Smith, and it's a joy today to welcome you to our Admin and Ops podcast. We love talking about the ministry that happens behind the scenes in admin, ops, supporting pastors, leaders. We love all this ministry work. And let's start by saying a Happy New Year to you. And I've got Anna Wood on today. So Anna, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, and thank you very much.
It's good. It's a new year. We're at 2000. Let me start again. Whoops, we're in 2026. Oh yeah.
We'll just go retro. It's okay. We'll own it. We're in our mid 40s. Let's just own going back in time, the early 2000s.
Maybe we should just leave it in rather than editing that out.
Maybe we should.
I'm going to write 25 100 times before I get it down on 26 on paper. So there we are. Welcome. It's 2026. We made it. So podcasts. So two podcasts that are coming out this month. One is with Anna, and we're going to talk a little bit about systems and policy and process and all that kind of stuff we love. And just drawing out from the policy queen that she is, and see what we can draw and learn from her. And then I've booked Pete Greasley in, who was he's now our retired senior pastor. Maybe I should put it like that. And just to draw him in, saying, okay, one of the things that lots of teams do, you either do it kind of in January or you do it in September, is a kind of team away day or retreat or offsite kind of thing. And it's something that we have done for 30 years, retreats. And I've been along to probably about 20 of them. And why are they so important, and what benefits are there for the senior pastor, for the teams, for those in the church? What difference can these make? And I even talked to him about vision and mission, which Amazing. Is always an interesting topic with pastors, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Trying to get people to think and going, oh, I don't like vision. I don't like talking about vision. It's too businessy. So yeah, it was interesting to kind of just put that to Pete and say, tell us more. So that's our next podcast. Anna, how's the new year started for you?
It's gone well, actually. Yeah, it's been busy, but not overwhelmingly busy. So that's a good thing from my perspective. I like to be active, but not to the point where I can't quite work out what I'm supposed to be doing at any given moment in time. So yeah, it's going well. Thank you.
And we were joking and talking about the temperature in your church building at present.
It's so cold to the point where we're now we're getting somebody's designing some blankets with our logo on, so that when people arrive, they can actually borrow a blanket. It's about 6 degrees in our main hall, and our heating system is not sufficient. So yeah, people who come to our church definitely show a commitment, because they continue to come in spite of the winter temperatures.
Nobody is falling asleep in your place.
No. That is also freezing. True. Maybe that's part of the ploy. I'm not sure.
So-and-so's teeth are chattering in the corner. Yeah, it's like distraction to the preacher. So I'm sure for people with old stone buildings like yours, man, it is chilly, but it is costing me an absolute fortune in gas.
Yeah,
that's a saving that you are making, even though you are freezing to death. The £2,500 bill this month was a joy to receive.
That is painful. I can understand that. Yeah.
It's trying to get our hall up to like 18, 19 degrees, and people still saying it's cold. I'm like, hang on, get down the road, go and sit in Anna's church, and then
that's it. Send them all our way, and they'll stop moaning about your own home and your own home church. So yeah, absolutely.
It's funny, but it's been a really good start to the year for the church office. And I was reflecting on this with a couple of trustees, and just saying we've got like 28 learners on the Good Church Management course. So there are 10 churches that have bought it, and they have like gone, right, we want 4 or 5 people to go on this course. And so we've been facilitating that. that's just been great, isn't it, to see, Anna?
It's so encouraging because, it has been a labor of love, I think,
Yeah,
for those of us involved in putting that together, particularly yourself, obviously. So to see churches actually engaging with it and getting things out of it is absolutely wonderful.
yeah,
Because we are praying that it will be a real blessing to people and their churches.
yeah. And we're on
Um,
our second church for the church assistant, which is great.
yes,
Someone down the road from you. So that's cool. Being
yeah,
able to provide sort of 6 hours of administrative support for that church, well, particularly for that leader, really.
yes,
So yeah, excited to see what God's going to do this year through the church office, through the opportunities that He might give us to serve churches and leaders and admin and ops people as well. So yeah, super exciting. Um,
definitely.
Great. So Matt Waldock gave me a recommendation for a book. He was like, "You would love this book." So let's start the podcast with this. The Systems Bible. Now you might need to take out another mortgage to pay for this bad boy. I think it was something like this book. It was like something like £65, which is crazy. But it's been really, really fascinating to think about. We as in our admin and ops role live in systems and processes, don't we? Just thinking about that, policy, procedure, volunteer kind of workflows, planning structures, communication channels, trying to work out finances. And so a whole bunch of systems and system management. And then alongside all that is policy. That's kind of our topic today. And try not to get our heads too fried as we talk about it, really. um,
Yep, it's a big one.
yeah, and I think one of the questions I've been asking over the new year, Anna, is just thinking about how do we get the right systems and processes in our church that don't impinge on our ministry and on
Yeah,
kind of pastoral care or on these different things. And a good example of thinking this through was kind of safeguarding and just thinking how that has kind of as a system and policy and procedure has merged and changed over the last 20 years, where we were going to safeguard kids, and then now we need to focus on safeguarding adults and kids, vulnerable adults. And now we're moving again, aren't we? To we've got to create a safe environment for everyone,
yeah,
and you can see how that whole system and how policy has just changed and adapted.
yeah.
Um, this book's got me really, really thinking. Have you noticed that as well? Are you asking those kind of same questions as well?
Absolutely. And I think what you've said before is really important, is that we want to try and create processes and systems which don't impinge on the work of the church, don't impinge on the pastoral care, but actually, ideally, enhance those things in the sense of allowing those things to happen more effectively or more
Yeah,
efficiently or whatever else is needed to ensure that those things happen. And safeguarding is a really good example because it is constantly something we have to keep under review,
yeah,
both internally and also being aware of updates to different processes. There was updates last year to the
yeah,
DBS processes and things like that.
yeah,
And actually, over the Christmas period, I spent quite a bit of time trying to utilize the tools that we have up at Cornerstone to try and see, okay, how can I make my life easier and therefore
yeah,
the church's lives easier in terms of
yeah,
actually keeping on top of some of the safeguarding admin that we need. And so I've created additional flows and tools, flows and lists and things like that, which support that process.
yeah,
And I did get very excited when I shared it with somebody else because nobody else is really interested except for
yeah,
people who are doing that work. And so, yeah, trying to work through those systems to make them that bit more efficient and effective without
yeah.
impinging on the wider work is so critical.
It is, isn't it? And it's another example, probably a more straightforward example is we've as a church, if you were to sign up for a ministry or sign up for an event or something, what would we have done? 10 years ago, we would have had a sign up sheet at the back of the hall, and if you'd like to come along to this ministry or you'd like to lead this ministry or something, put your name down. And that was kind of part of the sign up. I mean, prior to that, you probably just showed up and turned up if you wanted. But now, like we've got a system in place where we're trying to streamline everything through an app, through a digital app. So now you sign up online, and you have to use the app. You can't just, and a QR code or something like that, which takes you to a place to sign up. And just chatting to people in the church, for different people, they appreciate how those systems have adapted and changed and modernized, while others are like, I don't want another app on my phone. I don't
Yeah.
want to download this app. And now you're telling me that if I go to a ministry, I have to sign up through it. It's fascinating, isn't it, how all these things change?
Yes, it's constant change and review and evolution, I guess, of those
Yeah.
different tools. One of the things that I'm trying to encourage one of our churches to get to grips with is how our communication is working, and we are looking at trying to utilize an app-based product to move away from some of the WhatsApp community communication that we have currently. And there's really good justification for that. I can give a good argument for it, but I also know that for some people that would be a real
Mm.
negative, and for
Yeah.
others it would be amazing to not have yet more WhatsApp groups appearing on their phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, trying to get that balance right is really hard. And I think it is important as a result when you're kind of looking at these systems and processes to really take some time to think through what you're trying to achieve and why you're trying to achieve it,
Yeah.
because that way, one, you don't waste people's time by doing something which isn't really worth it, but also
Yeah.
two, you can sell it to people a bit more clearly. You can give
Yeah.
that clarity of communication so that they understand what the benefit is or what the reason is behind it. It's not just because the next new thing is on the radar. We like new shiny things, so let's do that. There's actually a lot more
Mm.
thought gone into it, a lot more planning gone into it to allow that system or that process or that tool to really work
Yeah.
for the life of the church and the people in it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really, yeah, really good. Really good. So why do systems fail? Why do some of our processes just not work?
Good
I get,
question.
yeah, I guess the first thing, which is what, the why question is what you're saying, isn't it? They're just not clear. That's yeah, it works in my head,
Yeah,
but it might not work in the kind of reality of what we're asking it to do as well, isn't it?
yeah,
And that is an interesting thing. They're not realistic.
yeah,
Yeah, they just, like you say, that connection to the purpose of why we're doing the matching it to reality doesn't happen. And I think for us as churches as well, this is the bit that I've realized that where I've brought systems in and they failed, is it you don't have the volunteer perspective on it.
yeah. That's
um,
really key.
and that's key, isn't it? I think,
Mm,
if a volunteer can't explain to you the system and what they need to do, then it's probably it's just not going to work, is it?
yeah,
You find these people who do these kind of, they don't do steps, or they do these shift arounds or make route, different routes, and you're like, why didn't you just follow it? It seems so simple to me.
yeah,
Yet it's not to the volunteer. And again, these things are just helpful for us as we start the new year and let's think about systems. I get very frustrated when a system isn't followed, and you think it's just so clear, but you're not clear
yeah.
at all, or a volunteer can't communicate that back to you. Interesting.
It is. I think that's one of the aspects with that, I think, which is really helpful, is if you can in some way test whatever you're trying to do
Yeah.
before you go live with it. So get a good group of people who are on board with giving it a go and being open to their feedback, being
Yeah.
open to it
Yeah.
failing before it's been launched, I guess, rather than trying to launch it and then finding it's not working. But the testing stage, I think, is
Yeah.
really
Yeah. Yeah.
helpful. For
Yeah.
me, as someone who wants things done as swiftly as possible and as efficiently as possible, sometimes testing can feel like it's slowing things down and getting in the way. But actually, there's a real benefit for taking that time, I think,
Yeah.
and just making sure it's working as it should, and then making adjustments, tweaks, or binning it and starting again if
Yeah,
necessary.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And you start on a good point there, isn't it? Because I can be very defensive of my systems and processes, and you know, and then someone's trying to help you adjust it and help you to see the reality that's not working, and there's some hard things going on in there, isn't there, with us?
Yeah,
And you have some side effects, but actually the principle of kind of not making it too complex Like I often add extra steps in thinking, oh, this will protect us, or that little bit extra more in that
Yeah.
worst case scenario that could happen in one in a billion. But
Yeah.
my system has it made,
Yeah.
and but nobody's following that fifth step,
Or trying to bring clarity by over explaining, and then
Yeah,
people don't read it because there's
yeah,
too much explanation. I think
yeah,
that's a downfall I have. I can
yeah,
be rather wordy in my communication. So yeah, I have to really think about that carefully and receive the feedback well.
yeah, yeah. And so I think, yeah, that's what I've kind of realized is, yeah, it needs to be simple. It
Yeah,
needs to enable people to do what they need to do in the
yeah,
ministry or in the role that they're doing. Let's not make it complicated. And I think the reality, isn't it, because systems and processes are broken. We see, with safeguarding and stuff like that, it changes, doesn't it? Our systems change with how we ask people to sign up,
yeah,
and so, you know a technical problem on the app is going to send me down, because people can't sign up then. And so systems are broken, and we have to keep kind of reviewing and evaluating them, and maybe in the app case needing some backups, and
yeah,
needing to think about it. um Starting new ministries, maybe again it's thinking, what do we need to think about for safeguarding in this new ministry that we're
yeah,
taking on, or this new role that people are volunteering in. So I think the new year gives us that a little bit, doesn't it? I found that
yeah,
a little bit of space after Christmas.
yeah,
The decorations are down, sadly, and we now we can breathe for a second and go, okay, how do I use my time effectively? What might be the systems and processes and policy that you need to change, to think about, to review? Where are people? What someone said to me, and it says it in the book as well. What are the workarounds that people are doing on your systems? What are the things, the steps that they're
yeah,
missing? Like go and like honing on those,
yeah.
and what can you learn from that? What can you do differently? So yeah, interesting. Now, as I joked at the start, you are the policy queen. And
I'm not quite sure how I've got this title, but evidently I've got it.
yeah,
So yeah.
you could set up your own Facebook page, and policy queen. You could set up your own business here doing this. No, you are so good at this and so strong at this. What are you doing to review your policies? Like, talk us through that a little bit for someone who might be listening, going, yeah, our policies, we've got some, it's a little bit chaotic. Um, you know, where do you
Yeah.
begin?
I
Help us
think
in this.
I think the starting point is going to be very nuanced for the individual context in terms of what you have got in place already. So the starting point base level, I guess, would be for you to just, okay, what have we got?
Yeah,
Um, and what I would suggest the best place to start in terms of legal coverage would be to actually, for England and Wales charities anyway, um, would be to look at the Charity Commission policy
yeah,
requirements in terms of what
yeah,
they expect you to have in place, depending on the work you're doing,
yeah,
when you do your annual submission for the accounts and trustee report. Um, that's a good starting place because it does actually highlight some of the ones which are quite important from an external perspective.
yeah,
So that will include your safeguarding, your financial controls, your expenses, trustees, that sort of like conflicts of interest, things which could actually cause quite a lot of problems
yeah,
if something goes wrong in your church and you haven't got a policy and procedure in place.
yeah,
So I would say, take a look at that. There's some things on there I don't have because we don't need them, because the work we do doesn't require them. But most of them we do, and so therefore when they've updated that list, I've then worked to go, okay, I need to get something in place for that.
yeah,
And then more broadly, again, a kind of an audit of, okay, what work are we doing?
hmm,
And therefore, what might be helpful for us to have either a policy or a policy statement or a policy and procedure, depending on
mm,
what the
mm,
need is. Because not everything requires a full policy. Despite what I said before about being quite wordy, I've got no desire to sit down and write a 10-page policy for every minutiae of activity
Yeah,
that
yeah,
goes on in church. It's only as useful as it's going to be in reality.
yeah,
So yeah, some sort of audit would be a good idea. And I think in terms of what to audit against, there are some organizations that offer some help with that in terms of you can purchase templates or you can get some free templates. So
yeah,
Church Office, for example, we have a range of some templates. There's other ones with organizations like Stewardship, with Edward Connor Solicitors, with the FIC and
yeah,
other providers. So
yeah.
that would be another place to start with kind of working out, okay, what have we got?
Mm,
What do we need? What
yeah,
don't we have? So that'd be my sort of first step, if you like.
yeah.
Um, and then I think from there, it's a case of not trying to do everything at once because
Okay.
you're going to need to prioritize what actually you need. And ideally, you want to have all the things that you don't have.
Yeah.
But that might be a list of 30 policies. I mean,
Mm,
our policy suite at the moment in Cornerstone Collective is 41 standalone policies, plus an additional staff handbook, which has integrated into around 10 more policy statements,
mhm,
and then some odd other bits which are slightly separate again.
yeah,
So that's an awful lot of different policy
yeah,
considerations if you're starting from a base point of having four.
yeah.
So you need to go
You've scared
through.
all our listeners now.
I'm sorry.
41 policies.
I was
Oh
really
my
trying not
goodness.
to. I'm trying to take it back to basics. That's happened over time. So not all of those things have been needed straight away, and some of them we've never used. So one of those, for
Yeah.
example, is an adoption and adoption leave policy. We haven't
Sweet.
as yet had the opportunity to use that, but we've got it if we need it because it came
Yeah,
as
yeah,
part of a package. So
yeah,
I'm not suggesting that you need all these policies all the time. But yeah, prioritize for your
yeah.
context what you don't have, and then try and build in some capacity. So
Mhm,
don't necessarily try and tackle all these things on your own.
yeah,
If you can get some other people that might enjoy that sort of task. That's how I started out really getting involved in the role that I'm in. Partly was I was a trustee, and when we were reviewing policies, I said, "Well, I don't mind proofreading through some of these.
mm,
I'm happy to go through." And that's then where the person who was trying to lead on that at the time said, "Absolutely, here you go, have all of them." And so, there might be somebody else who's as geeky as I am who actually doesn't mind spending some time thinking
come to love
through.
it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So that's worth doing as well. Bring in some
yeah,
capacity so you're not on your own in it. Um, and gradually build up what you need as a um, as and when you need it. So
yeah.
some things can be put in place for in case you need it.
Mhm,
So, for example, I would encourage every church to have a disciplinary policy. I would pray that you won't ever need to use it,
mm,
but it is a really important thing to have thought
yeah,
through in case it is ever needed.
yeah,
So that's a sort of medium priority. If you've got some things which are more urgent, then do those first. But that would be something I would still keep as a priority, even though on a practical level you may not use it in the near future. So yeah, that's where I kind of sort of
yeah.
start and begin to move through. Um,
So
but
let me ask you a few questions. So are
go ahead.
you have you, like we've talked before on the podcast and in some of our training about having kind of a policy schedule of, often the first mistake can be made, isn't it, that we do everything in January, so all 41 policies are reviewed, and putting, I guess, labeling some of those policies of like, what is a 1 year review, what's a 3 year one,
Yeah,
maybe one's a 5 year one. We're coming up to April, and we're expecting, aren't we, some changes around legislation around employment law,
yeah.
which again can have significant impact on some of our work. So, developing stuff now on that, doesn't make sense to start reviewing some of those
No.
before we get to April, and that seems obvious, but when you're just in the minefield of it all, trying to figure stuff out, we don't think clearly about this. So in reviewing employment stuff after April, it is helpful. So why not put it on a kind of timeline and a kind of maintenance
Yeah.
thing of thought?
Yeah, I know I know quite a few people in this sort of role or in churches, in church setups, they will have a rolling review process.
Yeah.
So, say you have quarterly trust board meetings. At each quarter, there'll be a certain number of policies which will be reviewed. They'll be reviewed in advance of the meeting. They'll be then reviewed by the trustees and then move on
Yeah.
um, to the next lot. And I think that can be a really helpful rhythm to get into to stop that overwhelming nature
Mm-hmm.
of it. And
Mm.
you can then time certain things to happen at certain times of year. So April, as you mentioned, is often a time when things to do with employment, so salary changes
Yeah.
often will happen then because that's when national living wage changes take place, and that
Mm.
can have knock-on effects with other pay rates and so on and so forth. So you can sort of look at what might fit a different time of year in a different way. So, for example, in the summer, if you're a
Mm.
church that doesn't run summer activities with children, that might be quite a quiet time to spend
Mm.
some time looking at safeguarding of children, for example, because
Mm.
there's less pressure on to actually be doing quite as much because lots of people are not around.
Yeah.
So it'd be worth having a think through that. Now, equally, and I'm sharing this because I don't want someone to feel like, well, that doesn't work for me.
Mhm.
I don't do that. I
Yeah.
actually do prefer on an annual basis to spend a week-ish, maybe a bit less, um, and just gradually work through all of our policies
Mm.
and make sure that they're reviewed. Some take much less reviewing than others because, like you say, some things can get away with not being deep dive reviewed for two,
Yeah. Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah.
But I personally prefer that rhythm of coming up to the summer break and thinking, okay, I just want to make sure everything's fresh, so that when we hit the ground again in September, everything's as up to date as I can make it.
Mhm.
Do I need to update things in the interim? Yes. So occasionally they'll make updates mid-year. Um, but to help me in that process, what I've started, and I've just literally started it this week, is I just keep a notepad page where I start to jot down the things which, okay, this is something I need to make sure gets updated. And if it's not an urgent update, if it can wait till that summer review, then it
Mhm.
just sits on that page until I get to
Yeah.
that summer
Yeah.
review point. But
Yeah.
I've got that reminder then that
Yeah.
in
Great.
January I discovered I need to actually have a look at this. Um, so I think, you have total freedom in that to make sure you set up what works for your individual character, for your team, for your church, whatever rhythm is needed. I think that is worth working with the strengths of who you're working with, as
Yeah.
opposed to trying to do something which doesn't lend itself well to your nature or to the structure you've got in your church.
Yeah. Yeah. That's helpful, isn't it? Yeah. And you do have to work on that, don't you? In what is best. Um, I think one of the challenges I find is just that there's a reluctance to, rereading policies and that's probably the harder part of it, isn't it? Not necessarily me reading through them and going, okay, here's a couple of things we could do differently and better. And then generally my staff that we're thinking about, right, how do we implement this, are generally open to go, all right, yeah, okay, let's and embrace that. At the leadership level, it's like, well, I read that like 2 years ago. Why do I need to read
Yeah.
that again? I've got something else I want to read. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's a common sense of that, isn't it?
Yes,
There's
it is. Yeah.
so
To help with that, I've started where, unless I'm starting from scratch on a whole actually that's just not working. I'm going to start. So we
yeah.
we did a rewrite of a few policies in 2024,
Hmm.
and so I did have to encourage slash enforce the necessary mandatory reading of some of them. But generally speaking, if it's just minor updates or amendments to make sure they're fit for purpose or to make sure they're
Mm,
still legally compliant
mm,
or whatever else, I will also, whilst I'm doing that review, I'll make a note for a summary document so
yeah,
that I don't necessarily need everybody to read through the whole policy again.
yeah, great.
They are just directed towards these are the updates in the summary document. And then that way they can look at that and be satisfied or
Yeah,
be, oh, I just want to have a look at
yeah,
that in a
yeah,
bit more detail. So then it links them into the section that's been updated, and they can go back and have a look at the full policy if they so wish. So that has helped, I
Mm,
think, with in terms of getting the people who, the leadership level people who need to actually be signing off on these things and be
yeah.
willing to engage with it. That helps a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think that's probably the hard bit, isn't it? And it is doing the hard work, isn't it, on us that goes,
Yes.
okay, I need to remind myself these guys are busy. They are,
Yeah.
serving people in crisis. They are, trying to navigate the scripture to what can we teach this week that's going to bless
Yeah.
people. And so, yeah, these things do fall down their list. And that's useful for us to not just kind of get through it, but I'll often say to Pete, like, when is a quieter time for you in the year?
Yeah, that's a good
Like,
idea.
as a pastor, as someone who's got to read this as a trustee, like, when is that quiet? When does that slow down for you? Because
Yeah.
the new year actually is quite a busy time, isn't it? Teams are going away on retreats. They're planning. You're trying to catch up with people after Christmas. There's always Christmas at drama, isn't there, with families, and there is always, you know, challenges that you're trying to work through. Um, so there is a degree of pastoral care that starts the year that might be quite intense. Um, and yeah, when's a good point for you? And even just considering them than that, I found makes us go maybe one small step forward.
That's a really helpful idea. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
some thoughts on it, isn't it? Um, how are you? So we talked about there's lots of different resources where people can go to and find stuff. With us, we've got some Edward Connor are well known and do an excellent job, particularly around sort of employment law stuff, and contract stuff like that. Um, and then you mentioned stewardship, and they've got some policy packs, have they,
Yes, they do. Yeah.
around similar kind of things,
Yeah,
HR
similar
stuff.
sorts of things. Yeah. I think probably slightly different offering in each location, but yeah,
Yeah,
certainly
yeah,
employment HR type
yeah,
approaches.
yeah. And one of the
Yeah.
benefits that I have, Anna will know, I sit on the board of directors for UCAN, UK Church Administrators Network, and one of the joys of being part of that network is the generosity of being willing to share resources.
Yes.
And even just looking at kind of like the Facebook group that's running, people saying, "Have you got an expense policy or credit card or what do I do about this particular policy?" People are generous and share them, and that that's a useful kind of little network to be part of.
Absolutely. I
Yeah,
think there's a little bit of navigation needed where, so for example, if you were to purchase a pack of resources policies from one of the providers we've mentioned, then obviously that shouldn't really be shared on. But
yeah,
if you've created something within your church and you're willing to
mm,
share it with
mm,
others, then that's an amazing
yeah,
blessing to
yeah,
be like that to somebody else. I've definitely benefited from people's generosity
yeah,
in that way, and I've tried to make it my intention to always be as generous as I can with the work that I've done to share that on as well.
yeah,
So
yeah,
there's often very little need to start from scratch.
yeah,
There's nearly always something there that can be reworked and amended to fit your local context.
mm.
And I think that is important. I don't think picking up a template and just going, oh, their job done.
Tick
Um,
box. Yeah,
yeah, that's where policy work I think does fall down quite quickly, is if nobody is taking the time to go,
yeah,
okay, what is again what's the purpose of this? What are we trying to achieve?
yeah,
And how are we best going about it? Going through that process means that you're going to take a template and then you can rework it to work in your local context to allow that to function successfully. And that's when
yeah,
people, I think, will be more willing to get on board with the process and the system
yeah,
if we know that actually there's a purpose to it and it has been
yeah,
thought through. It's not just a one size fits all approach.
yeah,
Tick that box, move on. Because again, one of the things which I try to, I've mentioned this before in different contexts, but one of the things I try to come back to with these sorts of areas of our work, which often aren't very appealing to other people, they seem a bit dull,
Yeah.
is actually it is all to support the gospel work of our churches.
Yeah.
And it is really important that we steward our finances in our church as well. So if we need to have a robust financial controls policy and that we actually adhere to what we say we are supposed to do, then
Mm.
that is part of our faithfulness in our gospel
Yeah.
ministry.
Yeah.
It's not just about ticking the box to say to the Charity Commission, yes, I've got a financial controls policy.
Yeah.
It's also about, having integrity in the work we're doing from a gospel perspective for serving the Lord and his
Yeah.
people. So
Yeah.
that's another helpful thing sometimes to kind of just gently remind people of
Yeah.
is it's not just the on the ground
Mm.
paperwork. It
Yeah.
is about more than that, and hopefully that can then be an encouragement to people's hearts to engage with it better as well.
Yeah, absolutely right. And you and I know of stories, and I'll share one now that of faithful trustees in a church that was next to a nightclub. The place burnt down. Their church burnt down as well. Huge loss. And you can look at that going, oh my goodness, how do we recover from this? But there were some faithful trustees who had done the hard work on the insurance, who had made sure that the rebuild costs were factored into the insurance. They had followed all the right fire procedures and had all the right protection, all the right things that they were doing. And as you're trying to figure out where did this fire start, who's responsible for it, they could confidently say, okay, well, we did our 5-year electrical testing, we did our annual maintenance on our stuff, we've updated our policies, and through their faithfulness, they were able to lead the church and navigate through what was a really challenging, difficult time. And because they followed their policy and procedure, as they developed those things, as they followed the systems, as they did the annual reviews on their insurance and other things, it enabled the church to get back, to receive the full amount of insurance funding. They now have a fantastic building, and the gospel's going forth from it in a stronger way. And you give thanks to God for His grace at work in it. And that
Absolutely.
nobody was injured, that their faithfulness has led to that church getting back on track and getting back to what we're about, is telling people about Jesus. So the connections are so important, aren't they, to the policy and procedure, to these things that we're talking about, to gospel, effectiveness. Um, I love it. And I just, if you're working to do something in policy and procedure, and we all have those days where I picked up the phone to you, Anna, and I said, try to get an update on a HR staff handbook, and said, right, I'm ready to quit now. This is
I
this
do
is it.
remember that call.
You remember that call? I'm not joking. I think I'm ready to quit. And then you go in, come on, pull yourself together, will you? This serves your staff. This isn't about you. And you're like, oh yeah, okay, it isn't about
Yeah.
me. There's something far better
Yeah.
as a church that we're about. And yeah, we want to play our part, and all these little parts and the bits that we love, and sit down with a cup of tea for a policy. That might be our happy place, and that's great. We're serving our churches, and so be encouraged if you're listening to this podcast, and if you've got any other suggestions of things that might be useful. If you want to have a conversation about the systems Bible, and rather than purchasing one, please do have a look at that. And final, just sort of point you to our brilliant sponsors of the podcast, Gavin at Church Street and the team there, Anna, who do an amazing job, don't they? Just the
They're
support we
so
get
good.
from them.
Yeah, so good.
Um,
We are so grateful on many levels.
Yeah, just they have been so good, and they've brilliant, they've developed a brilliant tool for
Yeah.
churches, and time again that we introduce people to them, they come back to us and go like, this has saved my life.
Yeah.
Jesus and Church Suite. No, Gavin might not appreciate that, but just it has changed their lives, because the time saved, the ability to disciple, the ability to do things with excellence is there with Church Suite. And so we're huge fans of it. We're grateful for their support. We'd be huge fans of it even if they didn't sponsor the podcast. I think that's the reality. It's just so good.
Totally.
So nobody tell Gavin that, because he might cancel his sponsorship. But it's good to be back. It's good for the new year. Anna, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Sharing the policy queen at work and helping us be reminded in heart, but also just ideas that we can do in practice. Really, really helpful. And please check out our podcast after this. Pete Greasley will be on. Looking forward to talking to him about, kind of team retreats, vision, offsites, how you build teams. Looking forward to that. So we'll see you next time on the podcast. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.